flip-flop. That's good. All right. I can't do that. I mean, that's great. I love that. We've been talking past few weeks that God is He, determined He is, and some of the things that He does and how He works and how that He blesses us. And then we've been talking about angels. We're going to talk about the head angel today. And you know him by many names: Lucifer, Satan, the devil. We're going to talk about him because you need to know who he is and what he does. And then next week we're going to be talking about demons. Now I know some of y'all, if you're teachers, have some in your classrooms, but and some of you raised some, your own kids, right? And you'll get that. Eliza is not, all right? Let me say that. And then on the next Sunday we'll be talking about angels, the good angels, and who they are and what they do. But just to give you an overall picture of angels, basically they are created beings. And the best that we can come up with is that they were created between Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 and Genesis chapter 1 verse 2. They were created in that place. And they are created beings. Now, they are not glorified human beings. You got that? They're not glorified human beings. They are created beings. And we are created as human beings. And there is a distinction. Now, when we die, we do not become an angel. You got that? We do not become an angel. We are who we are, and when we die, we are given a glorified body like Jesus Christ. Now, one day we will judge angels. In 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 3, Paul tells us that one day we're going to judge angels. And then also, the host of angels basically is different from the spirits of just men that Paul wrote in Hebrews chapter 12. Now, the angels were created. They were basically incorporeal, meaning they had no material form or body like what we have. They have a form, but not like this. Now, sometimes they did take the form of a human to come down here and communicate with humans. But they have their own body. They are a company. They are not a race like the human race. They are a company, part of creation. Now, in many things, they are more knowledgeable than men. But they are not omniscient. They do not know everything, even though they may know more than we do. And the same way, they are very powerful, but they are not all-powerful like God is. One incident in the Bible, in 2 Kings, it talks about when Israel was surrounded by Sennacherib and his armies. And God sent one angel, and he took out 185,000 men. One angel took out 185,000 men. Are they strong or what? That's right, they are strong. So that's basically some general facts. Now let's look at Satan. We know him as Lucifer, Satan, the devil. Is he sitting next to you today? Ooh, I better watch that. Who y'all sit next to today? Have you ever heard this phrase, keep your friends close and your enemies closer? Have y'all ever heard that phrase before? Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Do you know where that came from?
The ball.
From where?
The ball.
Okay, that'll work. There's a book written by a Chinese general. His name is Sun Tzu, and he wrote The Art of War. That's the book that he wrote. Now some people, they contrast this with the works of Confucius. They say that Sun Tzu, he takes it to the next level, and it's required reading in some places. You have to read this as far as being a soldier and a leader. And some people say, well, that's one of his sayings. Well, if you trace it out, it actually comes from a guy named Michael Corleone in The Godfather, Part 2. Demon, that's right. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Now, Sun Tzu wrote a lot of different things, but this one has been attributed to him, but really it wasn't one of his sayings. But basically, we're talking about Satan, Lucifer, the devil. Now, he was created, God made perfect. God made everything good. And they basically what happened is he left his principality, his abode, and he was the leader of the apostasy, which basically the leader of rebellion against God. And basically, as they were created between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, they also fell between those verses where they revolted against God and they were thrown out of heaven with that revolt. Now, what was the cause of that? Why? Because if everything that God created was good, remember he said in Genesis 1, and God saw everything and said it was good. So what was the cause of this? Why in the world did a created being rebel, along with others, against God? Well, basically, every affection of their heart was directed towards God. Their wills were inclined toward God. So how did this unholy affection come about and the first impulse to turn away from God? It's one of those questions that's been asked over and over, nice debates. You go into a philosophy class, that's one of those fun things you spend about a week on, just debating over and over. Basically, someone summed it up this way, is the creation, the creature, has the ability to sin and not to sin. In the positive, where he could do either without being constrained to do one or the other. In other words, his will is autonomous, where they can make a decision. Unfortunately, the decision was made by Lucifer. Basically, it was deliberate, self-determined revolt against God, and their choice of self and their interest in preference to the choice of God and his interest. Basically, they said, we don't want it. We want our choices and our ways. We don't want God's way. And that's what happened. That's the best way that we can look at it. So what happened in Ezekiel chapter 28, I'm going to read to you a description of what is termed a description for Lucifer, the created angel. And it says that you were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every kind of precious stone covered you: carnelian, topaz, diamond, beryl, onyx, jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and emerald. And your mountings and settings were crafted in gold. This is what Lucifer looked like. This is the description. They were prepared on the day you were, keyword, you were created. Lucifer is not an omniscient, eternal being like God. He was created. You were an anointed guardian cherub. You ever want to know what kind of angel Satan was? He was a cherub. Not the kind you see in Valentine's Day, okay? You see those things. But he was a cherub because cherubs had a certain duty, and part of this was guarding the throne of God. For I had appointed you, you were on the holy mountain of God, you walked among the fiery stones from the day you were created. You were blameless in your ways until wickedness was found in you. Through the abundance of your trade, you were filled with violence, and you sinned. So I expelled you in disgrace from the mountain of God, and banished you, guardian cherub, from among the fiery stones. Lucifer had great prosperity and he had great beauty. But he decided he wanted more. And so, because of that, God said, you can't be here because of the choice that you're making, and you have to be expelled. And that's what happened. Now, why? In Isaiah chapter 14, now that was Ezekiel 28, 11 through 19. In Isaiah 14, starting in verse 13, it gives you an idea of what happened with Satan. He said, you said to yourself, this is talking about Lucifer, you said to yourself, this is the attitude that he had, I will ascend to the heavens. I will set up my throne above the stars of God. I will sit on the mount of the God's assembly, in the remotest parts of the north. I will ascend above the highest clouds. I will make myself like the Most High, but you will be brought down to Sheol, into the deepest regions of the pit. Did anybody count how many times the word I was used in those passages? Satan said basically, I want to be in the place of God. I want to be God. That was his rebellion. He wasn't satisfied where he was. He wanted to be God. And because of that, he was cast down, taken out. So he had basically selfishness. He was discontent with what he had. And his cravings, he wanted to get all of these things. So that's what drove him to rebellion and sin. So what's the nature of his work directly? He says, I'll make myself like the Most High. I want to be God. I want to be him. But he was thrown out of heaven. Did any of y'all ever get to read Paradise Lost by John Milton? Maybe in high school or in college? Memorable days, yes? You just couldn't wait to do it again, right? Yeah, I can see that right now. You're all going to run home now and order it from Amazon, right? Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained. All right? Let me know how you like that. But anyway, in one of the quotes, Milton writes, basically attributing to what Lucifer, Satan, was saying. He made Satan to say this: to reign is worth ambition. Though in hell, better to reign in hell than to serve in heaven. That's what John Milton made Satan to say, coming from Isaiah 14, wanting to make himself God. I would rather reign in hell than serve in heaven. And that was the attitude that he had. And basically, what did he do? You have to remember that Satan has power. He has a throne, a place where he sits and rules now. And he does have authority. He has authority in this world. And we see it exercised every day. And y'all watch the news. And y'all pick up newspapers. Any of you just listen to different things about all that's going on. Rest assured that Satan, Lucifer, is behind all these things. He's not doing them, but he is tempting and presenting the opportunities for people, and they're taking them up on it. And they're doing these things. And just when you thought, could it get any worse, what happens? It gets worse. It gets worse. And so basically, when Satan wanted to set up his throne, he wanted to do these things. The first thing he had to do to achieve this purpose was he had to kill Jesus Christ. He tried when he was a baby. Remember when he was born? Herod told the wise men, when you find him, let me know so I can come and worship him. No, that wasn't his motive. He wanted to kill him. And so the wise men went, found him, worshipped, left, did not tell Herod. Herod got mad, so what did he do? He had every child under the age of 2 years old killed because he wanted to wipe out the Christ child. He wanted to be king, but it was Satan behind that. He had to get rid of the Christ child. So he couldn't do that. He failed at that. So the next opportunity he took was when Jesus was starting his ministry. He went out into the wilderness 40 days, not eating anything, praying. And then Satan came to him and tried to tempt him. First, turn those stones into bread. You're hungry. You're a man. You're God and you're man. Turn those stones into bread. You're hungry. Jesus said, no, not going to do that. Man shall not live by bread alone. And then he said, okay. He said, tell you what. Took him to the top of the temple. He said, jump. Because, and Satan said, God's word says that the angels will protect you and will even keep you from your heel from hitting the stone. Just jump. Angels will get you. And Jesus said, no, you don't tempt God. Finally, Satan came to the last one and he said, all right, look. He said, I'll give you everything in this world. Every single thing. All you have to do is bow down and worship me. That's it. Just bow down and say, okay, Satan, I worship you, and it's all yours. Here's the deed, here's the title right here. It's all yours. I always wondered about that logic, because it already belonged to Jesus. He made it all anyway. But Satan was using that to tempt Jesus. And what did Jesus do? He said, you will only worship the Lord your God. And so Satan failed there. Now, if Christ had failed in that respect, Satan would have gained more of a hold on this world and begun to not only take over this, but then he would have started to wage his war against taking over heaven. But Jesus Christ prevailed. He did not succumb to Satan. He did not give in to him. And then we see that Satan, because he couldn't come in, he couldn't prevail against Jesus Christ, what does he do? He turns his attention toward us. God's pinnacle of creation, man. Because Satan said, if I can't get the Son of God, I'm going to get those who believe in the Son of God. I'm coming after mankind. Made in the image of God, I'm coming after them. And here we are. And Satan does a lot of things to come after us. I wrote down 11 that I could find. I'm sure there's more. Satan uses lies. Jesus called the devil the father of all lies. How many times have you been deceived by somebody who told? How many times has someone told you a lie? How did you feel when you found out that they told you a lie and it wasn't the truth? You felt taken. You felt vulnerable. You felt mad. You felt like loading your gun. Or maybe it was already loaded. I don't know. But you wanted to take, that was not right. You lied to me. And so Satan is the father of lies. He uses lies to trick people. Someone once said, 9/10 of a truth plus 1/10 of a lie is an all lie, isn't it? You mix lies in with truths, you don't have the truth anymore. So Satan lies. He also tempts. We just talked about this. Jesus in the wilderness. He tempts people to do things. Temptation is not a sin. You have to remember that. It is not a sin. But Satan tempts you to do those things. He gives you the opportunity, and then you have a choice. When someone gives you more change than you deserve at the grocery store, what are you going to do? It's a temptation. Well, it was their mistake. Boy, God has blessed me today. This is great. Man, I've got extra money. It's a temptation. You've got to decide, what am I going to do with this? You're driving down the highway. I lose this temptation a little bit. You're driving down the highway. See, Pam knows about this. I don't cuss at him, all right? But driving down the highway. Well, may God bless you. You just cut me off. Isn't this nice? Well, okay, you want to pass me and then cut in front of me. And y'all had this? Somebody passes you on the left-hand lane and then cuts in front of you to go off the exit that you're just coming to. And y'all had that happen before? The fun one I love now is when two snails start to pass each other on the interstate. Trucks. We saw that in Tanzania all the time. Hey, we're back in Tanzania. Anyway, temptation. So how do you react? It's your decision on how you react to those temptations. Now, when you give into it, it's sin. And I say a lot of, Lord, please forgive me in the car because I don't have that right attitude. Yeah, I do, okay? Robbing. Basically, Satan robs people. Jesus used the parable of the sower and the seed. And he talks about the first seed that lands basically by the path. And basically the birds come and take it and steal it. And that's like Satan robbing people. They might hear the gospel. They might hear about Jesus, but he takes away the opportunity as quick as it comes. So he robs. He harasses. He harasses people. Basically, he harasses. Remember Paul when he wrote about his thorn in the flesh? He had something. He prayed, asked God 3 times, please take this away, take this away, take this away. And God said, my grace is sufficient for you. That was Satan harassing, putting that thorn in the flesh, harassing Paul and causing him. And basically, remember the story, the parable Jesus told about the sower. And they planted their field. And then the enemy came in at night and planted weeds in among the good plants. And so they were robbing those weeds and harassing those weeds because they were taking nutrients from the soil. That's what Satan does. He harasses us. Any of y'all ever been harassed? Any of y'all called the police for harassment? You've been harassed in different places, haven't you? Whether you were in school, in the military, at work, at the grocery store, you've been harassed probably in some places. Satan is trying to harass us to get us off kilter. He also hinders us. When we go into battle, when we want to do something, he will hinder us from doing something. Any of y'all heard the phrase, I'm suffering for Jesus? Y'all ever heard somebody say that? Well, I didn't get that parking spot close to the mall, so I'm suffering for Jesus. I got to walk a little bit farther. Any of y'all heard that before? Come on. I've heard people say that. Basically, he hinders us. When we go to serve the Lord Jesus Christ, Satan tries to hinder us in some way, to discourage us, to maybe even stop us from doing what God wants us to do. And what we need to do is just make up our mind, God, you told me to do this, I'm going to do this, no matter what. I remember up in Fairfax, Tim and Ashley and Emery go to the Fairfax campus of Citizen Heights Church. And every year they have a time of fasting and praying to see what God wants them to do for the coming year. And they have 21 days where they fast and pray in some way, shape, or form. And Tim and Ashley were telling us this year, they started this, and Ashley gets sick, and then Tim gets sick, and then Emery gets sick, and then Ashley's hit by a drunk driver. And then Tim has a lot of hard days at work. You know, as a policeman, you don't want hard days, but you get hard days at work. And so they said all this, and then they talked about other people in their church. Things were happening in this 21-day fasting and prayer period where they wanted to see where God wanted them to go and what he wanted them to do. So he wants to hinder, to discourage, and stop us. He also wants to sift us. He wants to just shake us apart. Remember Jesus. He told Peter, he says, Peter, Satan wants to sift you like wheat. He wants to just shake you apart and just basically wants to destroy you if he can. But if not, he wants to shake you up so much that you're not going to do anything. But Jesus said, I have prayed for you. So Satan wants to do that. Imitating. We have to be careful of this. Satan, Lucifer, his first creation, we read the description. All these precious stones. He can come forth as an angel of light, where he imitates. He is an angel of light. He may look really good, but underneath, he's got ulterior motives. Has anyone ever done that to you? They talk really nice to you, but you knew that they had ulterior motives. You know, oh, you look so good today, and this and that and the other, I'm selling this. Or, you know, you get that. They have ulterior motives. That's what Satan does. He imitates as an angel of light where you think it's good, but he has ulterior motives. He's accusing. In Revelation, he's described as the accuser of the brethren. And he does that even today. Jesus, did you see him? Did you see what he did? Did you see what she said? Did you see that? Look at that. And they call themselves your child, and they are a Christian, and they follow you. Did you see that? Did you hear that? And he accuses. But luckily, we have a defense attorney that cannot be bought or sold. And Jesus says, yeah, I saw it, but guess what? They're forgiven. I bought them with my blood and my death and my resurrection. They're forgiven, so case dismissed. They're forgiven. It's done. But Satan wants to do that, and he does that all the time. Satan uses diseases to attack people. In Luke chapter 13, remember the story? The woman that came in and she was bent over. She couldn't straighten up. And you read that passage, it says Satan is the one that did that to her. He harassed her. He made her. He bound her. And then possessing. Satan can possess people. Remember Judas, the disciple who had the bag of money? He was the treasurer. And basically, when he betrayed Jesus Christ, what happened? It said, and the devil entered into him, and he went and followed and carried out his plan. And then killing and devouring. That's what Satan does the best. He wants to kill and devour. Jesus talked about Satan coming in, and he said his motive, his end game is to steal, to kill, and to destroy. That's what Satan wants to do, is steal, kill, and destroy. Pretty opposite from what God is, right? He wants to give us things. He wants us to have life. He wants us to live forever. Satan wants the opposite. So what's the destiny for Satan? Now, he's doing all these things. He's using all these tools. What's his destiny? Well, he was found in heaven. He was created. Then he was thrown out of heaven. He fell with the other angels. He was in the Garden of Eden. He was very instrumental in being the agent of the fall of man. He gave the temptation, and it was taken. And then, basically, now, in the air, he has access to both heaven and earth. Remember the story of Job? He was there in front of God, and God allowed Satan to test Job, but Job did not give in. And so that's what he's doing. Now, in the future, he's going to be thrown down to earth, basically in the coming tribulation time, where he'll be confined here to earth. His time's going to be short. During that tribulation time, then at the end, Jesus is going to come back. He's going to start the millennium. But before we start into that, he takes Satan and he says, all right, you're in the abyss for 1,000 years during this millennium. You're in the abyss. You're in lockdown. You can't be here. That's it. Boom, you're there. But after the 1,000 years, that millennium, Satan is going to be loosed for a little time. Maybe he got rehabilitated in the abyss. Not. He comes up from the abyss and he gathers an army to make one last push against God. And they come against Jerusalem, and basically those armies are defeated, and then Satan is taken and thrown into, judged and thrown into the lake of fire. Forever and ever and ever. Guess what? We win. Satan loses big time. But do you know what? He knows that. He knows this Bible better than a lot of Christians. He knows every single word in this Bible, backwards and forwards, and he uses it. But in the end, he knows where he's going to be. And so he is doing everything he can while he has that freedom, so to speak, to take people down with him. That's what he's trying to do. So what do? As believers, we do not let Satan gain the advantage. We have to know where he's coming from. Do not be ignorant of what he's doing and the devices and tools he uses. Don't be ignorant of those. We need to be alert. We need to be ready. We need to be on the watch all the time, because he's always there. Now, we saw this firsthand. Peter describes Satan as a lion, going about looking for someone to, his word says, devour, to eat. We've seen that literally in Tanzania. We've seen lions stalking prey and getting that prey and devouring, eating that prey. So, y'all probably watch National Geographic or the Discovery Channel. We told people we live there. You know that, and it's messy. I mean, those lions, when they get a kill, it's messy, and you better not step in and try and get a bite if you're not invited. It was always fun to see the hyenas around on the outskirts. Boy, they tried to go in and get a bite. They didn't get anything. They met the wrath of those lions who were eating. So we have to be on the alert all the time, and we do not speak of him lightly. Some people do not take Satan seriously. That's just a figment of your imagination. It's not real. Yeah, we got to dream up something, so that's what we dreamed up. Do not take him lightly, because the moment you take him lightly, you are in trouble. And Paul, he gave us that illustration in Ephesians chapter 6. He says, you put on the armor. He talks about basically the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, Basically, the shin guards. Your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel, the helmet of salvation, the sword, which is the word of God, and the shield of faith. And do you realize that all that armor was only to protect the front? Did you know that? There was no back protection. Why? Because the Roman soldiers were expected to move forward. That's where they were going to be protected. If you ran away, you're a coward. Hey, you deserve what you got if you were running away from the battle. So we need to have that armor on to resist him each and every day. And he comes in anywhere and everywhere. He comes into that little cable that y'all have coming into your house that hooks up to the TV. He comes in through there. He comes in through that thing you carry with you, that smartphone. He comes in there too. He uses anything and everything to come in. So just be aware. Again, you are tempted. That's not the sin. Giving into the sin, temptation is the sin. So be aware. Be vigilant. Be aware that he is the enemy. And he shows no mercy. No mercy. One day, on the lighter side, one day, there was a discussion between Satan and Jesus on who had better computer skills. Some of y'all probably already know this. So, set up a contest, give them some assignments, and off they go. They're working and doing and all this stuff, and after about 2 hours, and we can totally identify with this, the electricity goes,